Welcome to the Daily Beast podcast. I'm Joanna Coles. I'm the Chief Content Officer of the Daily Beast.
And I'm Samantha B., Chief Content Officer of International Hot Mics with journalists talking smack about Donald Trump.
What are you talking about?
Oh, did you not hear it? There was a hot mic incident. They were showing the inauguration stuff in Germany, and the translator who was translating all of their bullshit got caught on a hot mic saying in German, "How long are we going to stick with this shit?" It's my favorite.
There is nothing better than a hot mic. Can you say that in German?
Okay, I'm going to attempt it. No, I'll do it at the end. That'll be the treat. I'll do it at the end.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so every week, this is the podcast from the Daily Beast where we dish about the people and the stories that everybody's talking about. Like this week, we're diving into Inauguration weekend, a soggy sequin fest that involved me popping my rain poncho, Sherry. I actually put on one of those plastic things. It was a desperate moment.
Why did you have a plastic rain poncho in your purse? Who slipped that into your purse?
Because it was absolutely pouring with sort of sleety rain. You couldn't get an Uber because the entire city was closed down. There were sort of metal fences everywhere.
Okay.
If you ordered an Uber, you had to walk for, first of all, it was going to take 25 minutes to come. Then it was going to take you 25 minutes to get there.
Okay.
And I was coming out of one of the endless parties, which is the sort of scene there. And Kellyanne Conway was in front of me. And she also was dealing with the same issues.
Okay.
So she took a pedal cab, which she took the last pedal cab in Nam, is how I thought of it. And I put on my rain poncho. There were no umbrellas to be found.
Wow.
And I trudged 25 minutes in my little suede boots through the snow to get from the W to the Jefferson Hotel.
Kellyanne Conway took the last cab. She snatched it.
She
From
was
you.
in front of me. To be fair, she was in front of me.
Was she wearing a little plastic rain poncho
She
with
was-
her Paddington Bear outfit
She
on?
was not, but she was better prepared than I was. She obviously has much more familiarity with the DC weather.
Okay.
But if you caught Monday's Creep Out Award show, and much like the Golden Globes, the Brutalist also won, you already know what's coming. A takedown of Ivanka's United Emirates stewardess outfit.
We call them flight attendants now, Joanna.
I wanted to say, well, I was sort of shouting, chicken or fish, or do you want the vegan option? In which case you should have ordered it last week with your pre-order.
I have a controversial opinion. I kind of liked that little dribbly hat. I thought it
You
was
did?
funny. It was like a little kind of comma dribbling off the side of her. I thought it was cute.
I thought the outfit would have been great without the sort of blanket thing across. I thought there was too much fabric. I do think Ivanka dresses well, and I thought it was just didn't work. And there were so many memes on social media about her looking like the Handmaid's Tale character from the Handmaid's
Oh,
Tale.
that's so true. Oh, I never saw those.
It's because peacock green is in, as I am just going to demonstrate
this.
by my scarf.
Teal is everywhere.
Teal is in, peacock green is in. We're also going to be looking at a debrief of Trump's first executive actions and a preview of what's to come in this so-called fermented revolution. Sam couldn't bear to watch any of it. I couldn't bear to look away. I wanted to see everything.
I was worried about you in D.C. this weekend. Did you go snowblind from all of that white flesh with spaghetti straps pressing in?
So here's the problem. I took the weather advisory very seriously. I went down dressed as Nanook of the North. And when I got there, people were bare-legged, a bit like John Fetterman. I'm actually not talking about John Fetterman. Then we can talk about his outfit later. But a lot of spaghetti straps, a lot of, very high sandals. Lauren Sanchez even forgot to put a shirt on.
She really did.
I am very
She really
concerned
did.
about her that she may have a chesty cold this morning.
She may have that heavy feeling in between your two boobs where you're just like, here comes the cough. And it's going to be a deep one.
Shout out to Mark Zuckerberg for taking a look and then grinning and then it being caught on camera. The best meme, sans doute, of the entire day.
Just the stage, just a little paper doll's house of wealthy people. Wonderful.
I did have one thought about Melania's dress, the Hervé Pierre dress that she had for the inauguration ball.
Okay, the black and white, yes.
Yeah, the white sort of tube dress with the sort of black I thought it looked like she was sending another signal that actually she was redacting her body parts to Trump. So she's got like a huge zigzag across all the bits that I'm sure Trump would want to grab. And she was sort of redacting herself.
Oh, wow. Wow. That is deep. That's actually deep.
I thought that was the signal. I didn't think she was signaling the Hamburglar.
She was
with the hat on.
The hat, I just thought it was a strategic move to keep him away from her face. All they could do was air kiss. I wondered if the brim had razor blades on it.
Curly razor blades. I loved Jimmy Kimmel's comment that it was it Jimmy Kimmel or was it Jimmy Fallon? They're all called Jimmy. That it was her own border wall.
I like that. Yeah. It was very spy versus spy, and I liked it. Redacting her body parts that he's not allowed to. I thought it was just more like a redacted document, but I like your deeper level of thinking.
I think she's redacting her body, and it might be subversive or it might be unconscious. And I did think, I know we're going to disagree about this, and I do understand what Isaac Mizrahi was saying a couple of weeks ago about Melania looking like she's been dressed and that she can't, we only see her standing up or sitting down. We don't see her living in these clothes. I did think she looked really elegant. And I think the hat with the brim was to protect her in the way that I think Anna Wintour uses those big bug glasses that she wears, because people are really staring at them a lot and really staring at Melania. And I think the hat actually gives her protection.
Oh, great. Well, if she had less repellent ideas and wasn't married to one of the worst people in the world, she perhaps wouldn't need protection.
But I sort of think with Melania, be careful what you wish for. She must have dreamed of being married to Donald Trump. What she didn't dream of was being First Lady, and she so obviously feels uncomfortable in the role.
I don't pity her. I don't pity her at all. I read the book.
You did read the book, which she didn't even do. She wrote the book.
Did not do. That entire book was a redacted document. So I don't hold too much sympathy in my heart.
I did like the bit where Donald Trump talked about how she complains about those heels, because she was in, I think, the 120 millimeter Manolos, which are pretty intense.
Did you enjoy watching Donald Trump dance with that soldier?
Oh, that poor soldier. She looked so nervous. She looked like she might be thrown in jail if she didn't look like she was really getting into it. And he was sort of clinging on to her, whereas Melania looked like she was having a great time dancing with the soldier who had rhythm, unlike her husband. He should not be allowed out loose on a dance floor, Donald Trump.
Oh, but I did enjoy watching him dance around with a sword, cutting that extremely gaudy cake. Oh my God, that cake. Now, I love a sheet cake, but that was too much for me.
That was a lot of cake. That was a lot of cake. So how are you on your mental health?
Oh, fine. Yes, fine.
Good.
I'm being very vigilant about not losing my ass every time something crazy happens. I'm actually being calm and measured about it, and I'm caring about the things that I care about, and that's all anyone can really do.
All right, so I think I learned something very interesting about you this week, which is you are not a cleanse person.
I am not a cleanse person, and I think that I was pretty upfront about that, but I broke the cleanse within, I don't know, half a day. I had sausages for dinner.
I know.
You are not supposed to eat sausages.
My favorite text of the week was you saying you discovered you were on a sausage cleanse. We both tried so hard. We tried very hard to do the chroma cleanse.
Yes.
And I failed at the inauguration. The truth is you can't just drink things and eat porridge when you are covering an inauguration. You need sustenance. You need 100%. Protein.
And I would say that
in the form of meat.
Individually, I did like all the packets. I actually thought they were all delicious and quite good.
I love the soups.
Couldn't take them sequentially over the course of 3 days. It's impossible. It's more like a side dish to the meal that I'm eating.
Yeah, I wanted to be the kind of person that can travel with packets of food in my bag.
Did
just
you travel?
add water. I took them with me, and then the minute I arrived in D.C., I was hungry, and part of me thought, oh, good, I can have the super porridge that I've brought with me, which I quite like, actually. But then I saw a Shake Shack and I was like, oh, no, I think I want a Shake Shack.
I have to. You need fortification for things like this. You need fortification.
And it was too cold for matcha.
It's too cold for broth. You went to D.C. Tell me which parties you went to. Tell me why you were there. I mean, I didn't even watch it on TV. I just watched clips. I couldn't bear it. So what made you go?
Well, of course I want to go. It's a new president coming in. I'm running a journalistic organization. We're an independent media organization. I want to be there and understand it.
Yes.
And I was surprised there weren't more crowds there. I know there was a line to get inside the rally, but I had been to the second inauguration for Barack Obama, and the place was teeming.
Yes.
And the thing that made it challenging was just the logistics, because it felt like the whole city was closed down. So there were metal fences to sort of harness the crowds, which never showed because the whole thing was indoors, because probably the crowds wouldn't have shown, but it was definitely cold. It was terrible weather. You couldn't get an Uber, as I mentioned, hence my rain poncho. And it felt like a whole trudge. But there was a lot of energy at the parties, the opening of the Ned, a new club. In fact, we have just started at the Daily Beast a new gossip column that's going to be based out of DC called The Swamp.
I love it.
So, we kicked off this Monday's edition of The Swamp at the Ned, which is a British club. It's part owned by the people that own Soho House. Ron Burkle is one of the owners. And their pride of place was Leon Black, Jeffrey Epstein's great friend, surrounded by a group of somewhat adoring looking young men doing bumps of caviar.
Fantastic.
They were all,
boy.
So, but there was also Muriel Bowser, the mayor of DC there, Michael Milken, who owns the building it's in, I think, or he owns the building next door.
Okay.
It was a very interesting cross-section of DC, lots of journalists, people from the Times there, people from the Wall Street Journal, all sorts of people. Incredible views of the White House. It's the most extraordinary club, actually. It's based on an old English gentleman's club, and it's just really beautifully done. Fantastic views of the White House. And then there was a building adjacent. I went out on the terrace with a huge sign saying, "Welcome back, Mr. President."
Oh, so glorious.
And it was also, there was a sense of, I don't like all this kind of hyperbole. I think it's sort of silly and it reduces Trump to something he's not. But there were lots of glasses of champagne, almost like champagne fountains, and a lot of people going around saying this feels like Germany in sort of the late 1930s.
Oh, so just a really healthy vibe. So just a really fun party vibe.
Well, two people said to me, "Are you drinking with the Nazis or are you a Nazi hunter?" Jesus. And I was like, "Oh, I'm not. I'm just here for the free champagne."
What a combo party! That's a real mixed crowd. But I will say this: it doesn't sound too cool. Was it cool?
Well, the space itself is gorgeous. Actually, it really is quite cool, and I can see a lot of people joining it because there aren't that many clubs in DC. I think the new administration is not about cool. It's about
it's not.
Right. It's. I mean, everybody was going around saying it's just pay to play. It's pay to play.
Pay to play.
And
champagne fountain.
Yep. And of course, lots of spottings of RFK Jr., who've been working out at the Lifetime Gym in Arlington.
With a top or
with a top?
A top?
No, inquiring. The first thing I asked, was he dressed? He had his top on and he wasn't wearing jeans.
He wasn't wearing, was he wearing bottoms?
I didn't. I assumed he was wearing bottoms because he might have been arrested. Never assume.
Never
assume with RFK. Very good point. I'm trying to think of other sightings I had. There were so many.
You went to the X party.
I went to the X party where everybody was hoping Elon would turn up. He didn't turn up. His brother was there, Kimball. You know who I was struck by was Liz Truss, the British Prime Minister who lasted 44 days, as you remember.
Yes.
Which was shorter than the head of lettuce. It was really a competition between the head of lettuce and Liz Truss. And I said, "What are you doing here?" And she sort of eyed me and she said, in a very deep voice, she said, "I'm here to learn how to create revolution back home." And I said, "Oh, do we need a revolution in Britain?" And she went, "Oh, we do." But she had her chance, and it only lasted 44 days.
Oh,
so she wandered off. I then had a chat with Steve Hilton, who, as you know, is running for governor of California.
Yes.
He's going to run as a Republican.
Okay. What are his chances? I mean...
Well, there's a moment, right? There's a moment. He has a
moment.
book coming out in March called Caliphalia.
Oh, dear.
Fantastic title, I thought. Fantastically good title for where we are right now. As we know, there's a attempted recall of both Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass, the mayor of LA and the governor, respectively. And Steve he seemed very bright-eyed about his chances.
Oh, really?
Who knows? Who knows?
Were there people at the party? Because I've been to parties in the past that definitely made me want to leave as soon as I walked in the door. Like basically, if I would go to a party and, there are New York media world parties, any party that if I would go in and see Ann Coulter, I was like, I got to get out of here right now. Like I would turn and walk out. Did you have anyone?
I am one of those embarrassing people that finds almost every party energizing. I was pretty tired by the time I got in there because I'd already done a series of brunches. Plus the weather really was shocking. And I'd had an interesting conversation with Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary and Frank McCourt about their attempts to buy TikTok. They put this deal together. They're pricing it at $20 billion. It's on the table. It's with ByteDance's bankers. They don't know what's going to happen. But I'd spent the afternoon talking to them about it. And so I was tired, but I just walk into a room of people and I am energized. Yeah, it's embarrassing. It is so embarrassing.
No, it's not embarrassing.
It's a little embarrassing.
It's interesting. This is why you do what you do and why I flee from parties.
Well, I find it embarrassing.
Okay.
I'm one of those people that I'm embarrassed for myself when I get to a party.
Don't be embarrassed. Only be embarrassed if you were caught on camera dancing to Dierks Bentley.
Yeah, I wasn't caught on camera. I might have been swaying.
You were swaying.
I might have been swaying, actually, because I like a bit of country music.
Swaying. Okay. And was there a cheese mountain? There was champagne. There was caviar.
There were...
Oh, that was at the Ned. What did they serve?
There was a lot of champagne, a lot of cocktails. At the Ned, they had those round champagne glasses, that were based on the bosom of Marie Antoinette?
Like a coupe?
Yeah, a coupe.
Okay.
Or no, it was Josephine, right? It was Josephine. That's where those glasses came from.
Okay.
They're supposed to be the size of Josephine's breasts.
They're now called a Lauren Sanchez.
Those would be goblets.
Those are goblets.
Would be goblets.
That's a chalice from the Lord God himself.
That is, it is indeed. Yeah, and I couldn't help thinking, we both had this thought of our friend Cecile Richards.
We did. I'm so saddened. You were good friends. You must have been very stricken.
I was very sad. There was an irony to her dying before Trump got sworn in that very morning.
That very morning.
As someone who spent her life working for women's reproductive rights in an incredibly formative way and who was absolutely fighting and working till her very last breath.
I just have found Cecile Richards to be a total inspiration. And I have met her many times and just found her to be really one in a million, one in a billion. Just a very special person, and I'm saddened for you, and I'm saddened for her family, and for this world. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many young women quite understand what they owe to Cecile and how awful it's been for her. The overturning of Roe versus Wade was a terrible blow, and yet throughout it all, she, kept fighting, believed very strongly in what she was fighting for. I remember her telling me about a conversation that she had with Ivanka and Jared in the run-up to Trump being elected first time round, or perhaps it was just after, and they'd said to her, if you can just drop the abortion stuff, we can work with you. You just have to drop the abortion stuff, which was only 3% of what Planned Parenthood does. And she just said, of course I can't. Of course I can't. This is the single most important economic decision a woman will make is when she has a baby, and she has to have the choice. And she pointed out which I always try and remind people that actually the people that have abortions largely are mothers. They are already mothers who've got children who know how difficult it is.
Yep. It's often a decision that is rooted in the economic conditions of your family.
Yeah.
What you want to do with your life, how you want to see the rest of your life unfurl. It's just vital. And she was just an incredible person. And Planned Parenthood is going to be under siege.
Yeah, it is going to be under siege. And I also want to point out she was incredibly beautiful. And I remember we went camping, a small group of women friends, was a sort of little rump of us, and we would go camping, or glamping as it's called, on Governor's Island.
Oh.
And even in the morning when she got up, she looked spectacular. She didn't need to do anything. She had this gorgeous skin, lovely hair, tall, and just a really gorgeous person inside out.
What a loss. What a loss. Wow. As we're sitting here talking, it's Wednesday morning. The whole world could look different.
The whole world could look different. And of course, Pete Hegseth's former sister-in-law has just come out with an affidavit saying that he frightened his second wife, scared her so much that she had a code word.
A code word.
And that he was abusing alcohol and threatening violence.
Yes, that she had to hide in a closet and had a safe word in case he was coming after her, so that people would know to come and get her. Wow, what a quality choice.
Excited for him to have his finger on the button.
Yeah, I'm excited for us all.
It's just what it is, right?
It's just what it is.
It's just what it is. We're going to take a quick break before we talk to our beast of the week, the king of Pod Save America, Jon Lovett. We're back and we're excited to be joined for a second time by this week's Beast of the Week, Jon Lovett. Jon is a former speechwriter for President Obama and Hillary Clinton, a TV writer, and a source of comedic relief in a time when relief is hard to come by. He's the co-founder of Crooked Media and hosts the wildly successful Pod Save America and Love It or Leave It, both available, like the Beast podcast, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Fun fact, he was voted off Survivor season 47, unlike Donald Trump, who's just been voted in as our 47th president. Sorry, Jon, I couldn't resist that. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for coming to our Adirondack studio.
So happy to be here. Look at this. Very woodsy.
Oh, it's
very
woodsy.
It feels appropriate for the weather. And you're from LA.
That's right.
Your house is still standing.
We were okay. Very lucky. A lot of people not so lucky. Now it's a lot about air quality and a lot of very confusing and contradictory advice on air quality.
Sure.
But we're okay.
Okay,
Good.
That's good. Okay, the last time that you were here, we were talking about the VP debates.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. It's almost quaint. So fast forward, Trump's in the White House. First impressions. How's it going for you so far?
Oh,
Feeling
I would say that I'm
good.
pretty disappointed.
What?
I'm pretty disappointed. Yeah, it's so I think it's just worth saying that I think a lot of people are struggling with how to think and talk about this,
Right.
including people whose jobs are ostensibly to think and talk about this.
Yeah.
And I was trying to, before I get to like, how do I feel or what do I think about it? Like, why is this so challenging? Like, why are we all, I think, struggling? It does feel like collectively, we're all just sort of watching this sort of mouths agape. And I think part of it, and maybe there's a silver lining to this, is that in 2017, when Donald Trump won, we had a lot of misconceptions about why. And we were able to cling to a lot of our previously held notions of America, of democracy, of voters, right? He didn't win the popular vote. And there was a lot of misinformation. And people didn't take him seriously enough. And they didn't understand the threat enough. And this time, those little bits of denial are not available to us.
Right.
Right? Like America saw him for what he was. He did inspire and try to lead an insurrection. He was a terrible president. He is manifestly unfit. And yet we were not able to convince enough people about that. And that is a result of failures of the media. That is a result of a lack of credibility on the part of Democrats. That is a result of people's dissatisfaction with inflation and with Joe Biden, and with Joe Biden leaving the bully pulpit basically empty for a year. But we don't have those little bits of positive thoughts to cling to. And so we're a little bit adrift right now, but maybe that's a good thing, because maybe it's worth sitting with the reality of this and not trying to talk ourselves out of this, and allowing ourselves the space to think about how we fight back against this, knowing that all these hopes and assumptions we had were wrong.
Right. I do think there's a sense, too, among people who have covered him as a president, that we just should not lose our cool about every single thing.
Yeah, I think that's right.
You kind of have to pace yourself a little bit, because right away there's a flood and they're flooding the zone and all of that stuff. And we know that some of those things are going to happen. Some were just gestures. A lot of it is posturing. We just have to kind of chill out for a second. And as you say, just sit with it for a minute.
Yeah, I think that's right. And also just what's important, what's less important, even if it's outrageous, even if it concerns us, right? Like, Donald Trump is attempting to remove birthright citizenship. That's a very dangerous thing. He hopefully, probably is not able to do it. We have to say probably because we have lost so much trust and faith in the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
But then you look at a debate online, right? And while Donald Trump is pardoning not just the people that enter the Capitol, but some of the most violent people that were a part of the assault on the Capitol, who attacked police officers, you see a lot of people online more interested in debating whether or not Elon Musk was doing a Hail Hitler out there.
Sure.
And what matters, what affects people, what's important, right? Like, the debate over whether or not Elon Musk is autistic or a Nazi is like not that important ultimately. Right. Regardless, he has a lot of power.
Yeah.
Let's say he did do a Hail Hitler out there. What does that tell us? It tells us he feels unconstrained. He can do whatever he wants. I already know that.
Yeah.
I already know that by his conduct and the actual power Donald Trump is giving him inside of our government. So I think we have to get ourselves to focus on the big, important things that matter to people.
Right. I actually did want to talk about birthright citizenship. Do you think there's any meat on the bone to that? Like, what is I'm not a legal expert. It seems like it's going to be a pretty colossal fight.
So can I just say this is just like a small thing that bothers, the Constitution was written by shopkeepers and store owners with lead poisoning, drinking beer for breakfast. Legal expertise is incredibly important. We have these incredible legal scholars that do strict scrutiny for crooked media. But the Constitution is plainly written when it comes to birthright citizenship. And the only reason we're even entertaining it is because the Supreme Court has gone nuts. But it's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. The 14th Amendment is completely clear. It says, if you're born here, you're a citizen, unless you're not subject to our jurisdiction. Does Donald Trump believe undocumented people can't be arrested for crimes? The whole premise of his campaign is that they can be arrested for crimes. This is about diplomats. Right. This is about the children of diplomats. This has nothing to do with people born in the United States.
He's taken over what is perfectly standard common sense behavior and hijacked it for his own political purposes, which works well. But there was a very good title. I didn't read the column today, but I did see the title, which I thought was good, which is that Donald Trump is, trafficking in Americans' ignorance on civics.
I think that's part of it, of course. He has this great trick, right, where he declares something that's not happening must be stopped. And then upon winning, he stopped it, right?
Strategy.
Hey, free speech is back, everybody. Yeah. I would love to know what a MAGA person couldn't say on Saturday that they can say today, right? Or good news, everybody, you can go back to buying gas-powered vehicles. Were you unable to buy gas-powered vehicles? So he has that great trick. But to your point, we are paying dearly for the fact that Joe Biden basically left the bully pulpit empty for the last year and a half. And and you want how does Donald Trump get away with this? Donald Trump has been president for what 36 hours, something like that, for 48 hours at this point. He did 3 inaugurals. He's done 2 press conferences. He's out there. He understands something that Democrats don't, which is that in an era where people have come to expect leadership to be in their face all the time, in part because of Donald Trump, and with so many different ways to reach people, with so much information and so much misinformation, you just have to be out there all the time. Yes. The Democrat that is able to fight back against this is going to be the Democrat that can be out there every single day for hours at a time, taking every question, afraid of no one asking them something too hard, worrying less about talking points, worrying less about saying the wrong thing to Joe Rogan, whatever it may be, and just being out there.
Yeah, he's 24/7 television news on his own. This is a show, right?
It's a show.
And they are putting up nothing. Can we talk about the symbolism of the inauguration? Because Sam and I talked about it earlier, and we have different thoughts on it. But what should the Democrats have done? I mean, it was extraordinary to see how diminished they seemed sitting opposite him.
I really objected to them just sort of sitting passively and smiling and doing all of those political niceties. I just think we're post presidential norms. I just think it's all blown out the window. I mean, do something differently. Just do one thing differently. Be a bitch. Be weird.
Or laugh. Like, why didn't they all do it? Well, there was such a wonderful moment when Hillary started laughing when he said, I'm going to rename it the Gulf of America, not the Gulf of Mexico. And she started laughing. If only all of them had started laughing, it would have thrown him off his game. But you're completely right that there's no one to counteract his programming. It's basically, there's no counter-programming from the Democrats.
No, well, he's so good, unlike Joe Biden, who was absent from the scene for a really long time. He is so good at communicating his victories, even when his victories are not real, they weren't his. America is now in a golden age. I'm like, it's the same place it was literally 2 days ago.
Yeah. So I think about that, right? Like, so there was this pastor, the bishop,
Yes.
right? That basically said to Donald Trump, there are people that are scared right now. There are immigrants who are scared. There are gay people and trans people who are scared. Have mercy on them. Show mercy. Remember that these are the people that do jobs in this country that we need them to do, that aren't criminals, that have done nothing but tried to have a better life here. And obviously today Donald Trump takes great offense to that. It is a small act of protest, right? And I think it was great. I'm like, it's really moving and great.
This is the Bishop of D.C., right?
Yes. He spoke at, I don't know what ceremony that was that they were all at, but you get Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Usha Vance sitting there in the front row, sort of hostage to her words. Fantastic. Enjoyed it. Then I think about the day before, Amy Klobuchar doing the welcome, and she made reference to the importance of the peaceful transfer of power. And then you think, what would be something there that would be effective, right? I honestly don't know, right? Like Democrats walking out, Democrats not lending Donald Trump the pomp and circumstance. I'm thinking about, like, I know that would work for us, right?
Yeah.
The hyper engaged people that have been paying attention throughout this entire long, now almost decade long Trump saga, like, we're all paying close attention. But the person that was angry at Joe Biden, didn't like Donald Trump, ultimately threw Trump a vote because they were worried about inflation and either didn't see or a bit inured to all of his noise and nonsense. What does that tell them, right? I don't know that that's a persuasive act for them. The unfortunate reality is, because Donald Trump won, he gets not just the support of, not just the kind of the support of the people that back his politics. He is lent the pomp and circumstance of being president. That is now one of the tools he has for doing politics. And he knows that better than anybody. He loves getting to go on Air Force One. He loves Hail to the Chief, right? He got that. He gets that. There's nothing we can do about that.
I take your point about it not being a persuasive act, but I do think that they, and perhaps all of us, they certainly, I mean, big prominent Democrats really underestimate how much it could help them and be a story and be loud if they just did anything differently. I just think anything.
I totally agree with that. And I think the problem, are these the Democrats to do that? Right?
Yeah,
like the problem, right, is that,
well, that's a great question.
And it's like, we need a pugnacious, attention-grabbing, charismatic, authentic group of leaders to emerge in this moment, to be our champions, to be our fighters in this.
And truthfully, the only one that springs to mind is AOC, who is of a different generation, is completely fearless in what she says, I think says plenty of nonsense. But at the same time, she has this sort of leaning into, well, what she understands is this is about attention. I spent some time with Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, on Shark Tank on Sunday, and he was talking. Well, we were talking about TikTok, because as you know, he's put in a bid for TikTok and he wanted to talk about it. But what he reminded me of was just, Mark Burnett did Shark Tank, and he said, Mark Burnett taught me to be who I am, and Mark Burnett taught Trump to be who he is. And you feel like, I'm serious about the counter-programming from the Democrats. This is an attention get. It's a brilliant use of omni-media, and there is no one leaning in to help the Democrats with that. Where is their version of Mark Burnett?
Yeah.
Who's now been made special envoy to the UK,
Maybe it's
by the way.
Joanna Coles.
Yeah.
So much of this is nonsense. The throwing out of the executive orders. Nobody's going to check whether or not it's actually taking part, some of it.
Yeah.
And the Democrats don't have their version of that.
One thing I was thinking when I was watching, first of all, it really just sucks that the first president to figure out you can do whatever you want is Donald Trump. And it's Like, it's just like, that stinks.
I'm sure there were,
Does
I
not
think,
feel good.
I think going back in history, there were plenty of presidents who thought that. It's just it wasn't writ large 24/7 in people's faces, right?
That's
it took
right.
people 6 weeks to learn what he'd done.
But what I mean is just that, like, I didn't know a president could sign official executive orders at a rally. But of course, there's no rule against doing that. I mean, whatever rules there are aren't real and don't matter. But what I was thinking when I was watching Donald Trump sign all of those executive orders, each one was an applause line, right? And so we see that and we think, well, we need people that can do that. But that took years. It took years of politics on the part of the right to get to the point where there was a list of deliverables.
Right.
That would get their base so pumped so that on day one of his White House, he gets to sit down and be like, I'm back, baby. You wanted free speech, you've got free speech. You want an end to DEI, you've got an end to DEI.
Right.
You want me to come after the electric cars, I'm coming after the electric cars. They built a politics that created a list of things he would do on day one, and lo and behold, he gets to do them. And I think over the last few years, Donald Trump has scrambled a lot of our brains. But one thing it has done is, as Donald Trump gets to go around the country saying, whatever your grievance, whatever your anger, whatever your antipathy, whoever you blame for your problems, you're not wrong to care about that. What that thing that you're angry about, that the news says you shouldn't care about, it, you're not wrong. Care about it. I care about it too. That little thing that's bugging you, you're right. You're right to care about that. You're not wrong to care about that. And then Democrats spent the same amount of time being like, you're wrong not to care about this. You're wrong not to care about Donald Trump wanting to get rid of political appointments, or you're wrong to not care about this. You're not caring in the right way. You don't care correctly. And it's gotten us absolutely fucking nowhere. And I just think, like, who are the politicians? Who are the people that over the next couple of years are going to do the work to make that list of deliverables so that if we do win the White House in the future, there's a president that can on day one say, I'm doing A, B, C, D, E, and there's a group of people going absolutely fucking nuts because they got their guy, and to give them the release, to give them the success that they promised. And like, that is hard. It's big. But that's, to me, like, that's the foundation we have to start building.
That's so interesting. You don't care correctly is such a, I mean, that really sums
it. It sucks. Who wants to be told that?
It's true.
But in the freedom of speech thing, there is also, I was just thinking that there is always this fear still, and it will alleviate now, I think, but this fear that somehow you have said something that someone will find a hidden thing in it that has an insult you didn't mean to make about some group. Do you know what I'm saying?
I think talking used to be more fun for famous and powerful people because they used to be able to talk and do whatever they wanted, and they got very little feedback. And a lot of this is about feedback that people don't like or find annoying, right? There's a whole clutch of very successful, some of the most successful comedians in the history of comedy all have specials about how you can't say things, right? And how hard it, and how you're not, how free speech is under threat, and you have to be free to say things. And it really is about criticism. There are examples of overreach and people trying to get people fired. And I'm not saying those things don't take place, but for the most part, this is about noise and people being subjected to liberals they find annoying. And I find a lot of those liberals annoying, but it's not going to lead me to elect Donald Trump over it.
No.
And so I think we all have to get a little bit more comfortable with the fact that there is just more feedback, more noise, more criticism than there ever was before. And it makes people in positions of power who had a lot of ambition and fought very hard to get to the top, and who maybe have some unexamined issues that led them to think that this would be fulfilling, they suddenly make it all the way to the top, and they're not getting the respect and praise that they thought would come with it. They're getting shit on the internet, which is in their pocket just like everybody else, and they don't get that adulation that they were hoping for. And that's for their therapist. I don't think it's for politics.
I feel like you're slightly underestimating the impact it had on regular people who felt like they stopped saying things out loud because they were frightened that the HR department would come down on them. And I mean HR department in quotes. But I do think that there are a lot of people who felt that they had things they said taken out of context, taken much more seriously than they ever meant. I take your point about criticism and people not wanting criticism, and especially famous people. But I do think there was a feeling that you really couldn't say what you wanted anymore.
I think there's some truth to that. I think the reality is that a lot of people who aren't in positions of influence, who aren't don't have big followings on social media, have always been limited by their jobs, right, and what they can say. You could always be fired. By the way, to this day, you can, of course, be fired for speaking back to your boss, right, if you work at a coffee shop, right? Like, those limits were always there. I think that there is a way in which the political has there was a lot of messaging around this and propaganda around this that kind of filtered down and made people believe that was the case. I do think you're right that like in the sense that like you see a lot of videos on the internet of someone picking up their phone and pointing it in the face of somebody that like works at a store and being like, what did you just say? Right. And like, I think that kind of panopticon that like it's not government led, but like all of us as individuals treating our phone as a weapon to hold people accountable, right? Like that in the world, like if you're wronged or treated incorrectly, you take out your phone and the person filming is always the victim. So then two people that are arguing both take out their phones. We're like, you're filming me, I'm filming you. This is my story, not your story. Like I think that is ugly and makes everybody feel a little tense. And maybe that I think is part of what's
there's a sort of a creeping paranoia that people are filming each other the whole time. You're right, you're never more than a cell phone video away from total collapse.
And I do think people hate that. And I do think people understand that we've given something up and it's wrong.
Yeah.
And I do think then believing that it's the right wing's professed free speech cause when, of course, A, a lot of the censorship they're talking about has nothing to do with the First Amendment, and B, they're some of the most litigious people on earth who are trying to abuse libel law in the courts to silence people and go after people is like pretty rich. But I don't think you're wrong. I think there is a real fear there that has gone trickle down.
And they had your point about sort of understanding what people wanted to complain about. Their radar for that was just so superior to the Democrats, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's, I don't know, I kind of favor people getting called out for being shitty, which mostly was what was happening with people's phones. I think people don't like to think of themselves as holding shitty beliefs and attitudes, but we get treated horribly all the time. People get treated terribly. They get accused of things they didn't do. They get accused of not living in the neighborhood where they own a home.
Right.
And that's really valid.
Yes.
And it makes people who hold not great opinions about other people, it makes them feel nervous. And I think we've just sort of bought the propaganda that we're not allowed to say what we want to say. We're allowed to say what we want to say in this country. There are consequences if you say things that are bigoted and misogynistic, and there weren't before.
Yeah.
So we actually need a little bit of that, I think. I don't know.
I agree with you. I just think it's complicated. And
it is complicated.
I just think I think what you're saying is of course true. I think people feeling as though we backed our way into a kind of panopticon, which makes people feel a bit anxious, is also true.
If we got off our phones just a touch more,
the phones are the problem.
It is a problem. I mean,
it is
being forced, or you're allowing it. I'll just say this: when TikTok was offline for 14 hours, my children were thrilled. Like I have teenagers, like a 19-year-old, a 16, and 14. They were like, "Great, it's off my phone." It came back. They were like, "Oh, here we go again." And I was like, "You actually don't have to have it. You don't have to have it." And they were like, "Well, we do because everybody else does. Like if nobody can have it, we're free. And if somebody else has it, I'm back in the game." I'm like, this is a terrible way to live in the world where we're seeing everything all the time. This is why we're so tense and paranoid all the fucking time.
Well, I feel like that with chocolate, though. If it just there wasn't any chocolate, it would be fine. But when there is chocolate, it's a disaster. What is going to happen to TikTok? What do you think is going to happen?
I don't know. They did what all these other billionaires are doing, which is they first said that only Donald Trump can save us and then declared that Donald Trump had saved them. The law is pretty clear. TikTok has to be banned unless it is sold. Trump can extend it because a sale is in the offing. That can mean, I guess, whatever you want it to mean. It's not clear that there is some deal on the table right now. This was a bipartisan.
It's one of the few bipartisan bills, right, where everybody agreed TikTok is a bad thing. It's a national security risk.
It is, though, to me, like a signal perfect example of everything wrong with politics right now, because you had a bipartisan establishment saying we must ban this app. They never gave us a full explanation as to why. They said it's a national security threat. We've barely gotten it. By the way, when they passed it, we had no information.
Because it was snuck in the Ukraine bill, right? Passed late on a Saturday night.
Exactly. And then it's been, in the months since, it's been a lot of trust us. This is what has to happen. It's the right thing. It's a lot of like, they're mixing a bunch of different reasons, right? One of the reasons is that it's terrible for children. I agree. Why is it like, okay, now an American company is rotting our kids' brains. That's great. What an upgrade. But then they say, all right, there's all these national security threats. Explain them. This is again goes to like that joke we spent months, and I regret the way in which I was always critical of Joe Biden and his I think failures to communicate. But it has only hit me over the last couple of months just how much we've paid for having a White House where when the president spoke, the best you could hope for was a draw, right? Yeah. You hoped you guys got out of it.
Yeah.
Well, that's not
well,
what
you sat on the edge of your seat, going, "You can make it. You can make it to the end of the sentence.
Right.
Come on!"
And instead, what you need is somebody effortlessly and constantly persuading.
Yes.
But we haven't had that on this. And then what happens? Donald Trump gets to roll in like a white knight to save it.
Well, we've also had a
the company's sucking up to him.
And we've had a Supreme Court decision 9-1, unanimous Supreme Court decision that it should go.
Think of it as such an embarrassing capitulation.
Of course.
This is so humiliating. We look so much weaker than we did 48 hours ago.
And by the way, I'm no a huge fan of our giant tech conglomerates, but they don't have access to China, right?
Right,
So China gets access to us, but
no
we don't get
access
to
to them.
to China. And
No,
so
the
the whole thing
CCP
is a mess.
Right.
It's
Settled
just-
right
it's
into
just
the heart of America.
The feckless, self-righteous
Yeah.
political establishment telling us that they know better. The users of the app saying we don't agree, and Donald Trump saying I'm going to side with all the people because I have no actual beliefs, and this seems like better politics. And he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
The users of the app receiving, days and days worth of actual propaganda about how great the app is. It reaches 175 million people. 175 million people
Don't get me
all
started.
got the message.
Don't get me started
all at
on
the same
TikTok.
time.
Yeah.
If
CCP writ large.
And I got so
boy.
many great recipes from it. I made the viral Turkish pasta. If anyone out there made the viral Turkish
Tomatoes.
pasta, don't take my app.
Feta.
I reread
Bake it.
A Letter to America on it, as did 20 million people who didn't know anything about it when it miraculously surfaced.
We are just lucky that the only message that they sent to 175 million people the other day was preserve this app because it has so much potential to do us harm.
Thank you, Mr. Trump.
Oh boy,
Well,
just looking at that big.
I know. The one good thing you can say about it is 6 million small businesses, right, actually make money through TikTok.
Okay.
All right, I'm just saying.
I mean, I feel badly. I don't want to.
The thing about the ownership, look, I'm whatever they're seeing in these secret meetings, they should release it. Tell us.
Yeah.
Tell us, but they haven't. But what I have taken away from this is you look at the 2016 election and Russia using misinformation on Facebook. You look at Twitter changing and moving to the right. Now we're talking about TikTok. What I've learned is regardless of the owner, whether it's an American billionaire, whether it's Russian influence, whether it's the Chinese Communist Party, you throw a bunch of digital throwing stars and nunchucks and axes and spiked backs in the center of a group of Americans, they'll pick them up and they'll bludgeon each other with them. And to me, that's the problem, right? Isn't the problem is not who owns it. I mean, I think that's obviously important, but the problem is what happens when social media and politics meet, and we simply are not up to it.
We are not. We are not sophisticated.
Can I make an observation about your former boss, Barack Obama, at the inauguration, which is that he seemed strangely and unexpectedly diminished. And it was partly because of the lack of seniority of seating, because the Clintons and George Bush were in front of him in terms of just position of seating. But without Michelle also, the two of them together always felt like this force. And it's such an extraordinary change to go from, I remember being at his second inauguration. It was such an extraordinary moment. The entire of D.C. was packed. I mean, D.C. was it was partly that it was cold, but it was very cold for the Obama inauguration too, number two. I was freezing all the time. It felt much more empty, D.C., this time round. But what is he doing now? It felt like he'd come and gone somehow. And you were like, oh, there's that guy that brought us hope and change. And what's happened to him?
So I think the medium is the message. The inaugural is the place where it is built around the person who's becoming president. They always seem big. They are commanding. It is a ceremony designed to elevate that person. I don't think there's any way around that. It's interesting, right? Barack Obama at the convention, at the Joe Biden convention, was Barack Obama's speech, Michelle Obama's speech, and actually Doug Emhoff's speech, which I do I'll just want to not forget. When a campaign loses, you don't focus on the things that went well, right? Everything was either bad or not important. But Michelle Obama, Barack Obama, they were extraordinary surrogates. And Barack Obama on the campaign trail was an extraordinary surrogate, making the best, or if not one of the best arguments for electing Kamala Harris. By the way, he would have done the same if it had been Joe Biden. But Barack Obama, we're getting, each election, we get further and further away from when he was the president. And we haven't made another, right? We have made no more figures that have his popularity. No one is popular, right? Not as broad a coalition. And then I think, all right, look at the last few Democratic presidents, right? You had Bill Clinton, you had Barack Obama, then you look at like the figures that have excited the Democratic base, people like Bernie Sanders. They all had different approaches to what it meant for them to run against the establishment, to run for change. It meant very different things for each of them. But each of them were these larger-than-life figures, or have been these larger-than-life figures that set Washington or politics as usual as the enemy. And I think that, to me, is what's instructive about Barack Obama's success. It is, who are the figures that are going to find a way to make an argument against the establishment that's captivating, that brings a big coalition together? Bernie Sanders, I think, and AOC actually do that, and they're filling a void. And so the left really is the only one offering that kind of broad-based critique, which is why I think it appeals to a lot of people. But Barack Obama's was not really, on war it was, but not on the economy. It was more of a message about anti-corruption, about the need for change, about the need for new leadership, a new generation, right? There's a lot of ways at it. Bill Clinton ran against a decadent left, right? He ran to prove that Democrats could be moderate.
Right.
Like it's been different every time.
And cared about the economy. Yeah.
Right.
So who do you see coming up then? Who is there out there? Is it Hakeem Jeffries? Who is it?
I don't know.
For people who are listening to this and not watching it on YouTube, John's face was just priceless.
I don't know. I don't know. And here's my resolution. I have a bunch of resolutions that are now out the window, but this one I'm going to keep. I'm not going to pretend.
Right.
I'm not going to look at a group of Democrats and say the least annoying one is the best one. I can't do it anymore. So I don't know, but this is the time, right? Like, nobody thought after George W. Bush won in 2004, when Democrats had lost across the board, that within 2 years, 2006, we would take back the Congress. And 2 years after that, an unknown man named Barack Hussein Obama would be president of the United States. So right now, this is the beauty that we have shaken the Etch-a-Sketch, right? Like, it's everybody back to one. And so tell your story, make your case. And by the way, we don't know what's going to work. We don't know what it's going to put on its feet.
And I think there's such a level of, I think we're just just spinning off of what you just said, I just think there's such critical levels of fatigue. Like, everyone's just like, I don't know, why should I care? Like, literally, why should I care anymore? Why should I? I mean, I care because I care about the issues that I care about. But do I care about the political establishment right now, or the emerging political establishment? I'm just not sure that I do. Kind of have to focus on the issues that are important to me, because honestly, when I see, I'm sorry, I have to say this, when everybody is talking about Donald Trump and acknowledging that he's a fascist and using the word fascist in their speech giving and their campaigning, and then they're all just sitting together on a big stage going, it's better that it's inside, just like having a chat, it makes me physically ill. I'm like, I just don't believe in anything. And I think there are a lot of people who are just existing in this space now where we're like, I don't know. I really don't know. I just don't know that I can summon the will to care about their careers.
And you know what, though? I don't care about their careers at all. Never have, never will. But I do think that, like, what we're going to try to figure out, what we have to figure out, is a story of politics that starts with that feeling. We spent a lot of time talking about the ways in which Donald Trump can make everything terrible, and he can. But we do also need to talk about, like, the world we want to build.
Yeah.
And even when I don't know what that world looks like, right? Like, what is our goal? What is an exciting future if Democrats got everything we want, right? What does that world look like?
Right. We don't even
paint
know.
that picture.
Well, we should have universal health care.
Sure, but even healthcare, but like...
we could have reproductive rights for women. That would be a start.
But even those two things, right? Like, obviously, those are absolutely among the most important things that government can do for its society. But those should be table stakes. Everybody being able to go to the doctor, that's important, but it's actually an answer to our current dystopia. It's an answer to why things are so bad now, that the best we can hope for is going to the doctor. Like, there's a better world even than that. Once everybody can have healthcare and everybody can go to the doctor when they need to see the doctor, the bare fucking minimum for what a government should provide, what's after that? What's like the next thing?
And I do want to add this point, because we do sort of, I mean, talking to all my friends and talking to, you, my new friends.
We're new friends.
New friends.
New friends.
New
Wow.
friends.
New friends.
You know, the cynicism, though, like talking about us kind of like having a cynical view, I actually think, I just want to acknowledge that I actually think that the GOP is the most cynical political organization
Of course.
of all. So I don't want to give the impression that I think that they're like hope and future thinking. I think, you know,
Well, they're all cynical, right? It's just you want your cynical, not their cynical,
It's all
I think.
just throwing Kid Rock at us
Yeah,
yet
but-
again because...
I do think some of the most dangerous people in politics are naive people who think they're cynical, right? Like you can't con an honest man. Like the people that think they're getting one over on Trump when he's really the one getting things over on them, right? That's what these billionaires are doing. That's what a lot of these members of Congress are doing.
Yeah.
That's what some of his like most hardened supporters are doing. They think they're in on the joke, but I
So-
think sometimes the joke's on them.
So,
It
John,
is on John,
who
yeah.
lasts longer, Elon or Steve Bannon?
Oh, yeah, that's such a great question. I have no idea. I have no idea what's going to happen in this rat's nest.
Oh God! You know, cockroaches are equipped to last out a nuclear war. So who knows where
Well,
those two
Vivek
land.
Ramaswamy's off the island. You know what
he's
that
taking
feels
time
like.
to
Do you know
spend
what
time
that
with his
feels
family.
I do know what
His
that feels
campaign.
like. Think about how annoying you have to be interpersonally to be the person people don't want to work with, and your colleague is Elon. Think about what you're bringing to these meetings.
Wow.
Something
But
to
at
think
least
about.
Elon is, I will defend Elon. I think
you
he's.
do.
I
know.
just
Interesting.
think that
Joanna,
I think
stop
that
it.
he is an extraordinary
Oh, my
brain,
God.
and he needs to be protected. And he's much more interesting than almost anybody else out there. I know you're both looking at me as if I'm like bonkers, but I think some of what he's done and his ability to say, you know what, we're going to get rockets up into space and we're going to do it at a
Get
quarter
to
of the
Mars.
price. And,
You let him go.
right, and
on that
plant
journey.
a flag on Mars.
Plant that
I do
flag,
think he thinks
sir.
differently, and that's important to have. You just have to harness that ability to think differently. That's all.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe
I
a
guess,
little, that's all, but-
I can't.
You can't harness. No.
Look,
It's over.
You know, you don't go to the hardware store for milk. I don't like. He may be
Well,
good.
I
at,
agree, he
may
shouldn't be
good
doing
at rockets,
Doge.
but I don't want him in charge of my government. And some people can be very smart at one thing and have an arrogance and confidence that does not translate into other aspects of public life.
Agree, and I don't think he should be in the charge of the Department of Government Efficiency. I get that. He should be in charge of thinking different, of big American dreams, which is, after all, what Trump wants. I don't understand why they've put him there. That makes no sense to me. And Vivek, it doesn't make sense to Vivek because he's now left, although it makes no sense that he's running as governor of Ohio.
Well, he had to think of something pretty quickly when he knew that he was going to get fired from Doge. I mean,
Well, it's all.
these people
well,
are so repellent.
Every day it's a different episode. Every day there's a different character. It's going to be exhausting
You bet it is. And listen,
and super interesting.
just do me a favor, dear listener, dear viewer. Go to votesaveamerica.com and sign up, because when there's a lot of noise and a lot of bullshit and a lot of reasons to not pay attention and you're not sure where to put your energies, we will give you small, simple steps to focus on. A lot of big conversations, a lot of big ideas. There's something really granular that's very important. We have 2 years to win the House. And I know it feels like a small thing to say when all these terrible and big things are happening, a lot of which we can't stop. But if we win the House in 2 years, we can stop Donald Trump from legislating. And as much as it feels like the rules of politics no longer applies, there's a dozen or so Republicans in swing districts that want to keep their jobs where the ordinary gears of politics still turn. That's where we need to put our energies. So do me a favor, sign up at Vote Save America.
Yes.
We will give you ways to help and put your energy and your anxiety and your fear and your love of Elon Musk to good use.
think granular.
John Lovett, thank you for coming in. Please
Thank
come
you
back.
so much.
This is great.
Yeah,
Good
please
to
come
see
back
you.
soon.
Thanks for having
Very
me.
good to see you.
So fun to see you.
Very
In
good
person,
to see
no
you.
less.
know.
Look at us.
So much more fun in person, isn't
Yeah,
it?
so much
It
better.
really is. Last time I saw you in person was at the White House with Joe Biden,
Right. Oh my God.
and he could barely move.
Oh, it was pretty
When was
bad.
that?
It was
It was a creators event that they had
and
last
I
year.
remember I told myself after that, like, well, he'd just gotten back from a European trip. It's Friday, he's exhausted. And then we saw him at that fundraiser. And I was like, well, now we're 0 for 2. Now we're 0 for 2. And then we saw the debate and I was like, I'm out.
Yeah, the
I'm out.
debate
Put a
was
fork
the-
in him. He's done.
Yeah, the debate was the defining moment. But that event was well, he just physically couldn't really move.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
But not our problem anymore. We got new problems.
New problems.
Is this over?
Fresh
Are we
problems.
done? Is it a wrap?
If you did, thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, comment, and share it with everyone you know and some strangers. If you need an icebreaker, ask them if they listen to the Daily Beast podcast with Samantha B and Joanna Coles.
The ideal icebreaker. And keep sending us those emails. beastpod@thedailybeast.com. Drop us a comment on YouTube. We read them all. And there was one listener who thought that I said that I tried a clearance cream on my skin and it turned it all pink. But I actually meant to say a Clarence cream, which
It still sounds like clearance.
turned Clarence, which turned my skin baby pink.
And I got comments about why didn't I comb my hair? Why didn't I brush my hair? And that's because everybody gets the side of my hair, which is unfortunate.
That
This
tussle,
is styling. It's
that
supposed
is
to
on
look like
purpose.
this.
It's tussled.
If you're not a subscriber to The Daily Beast, it's so easy to sign up. Just go to thedailybeast.com/membership/podcast. But actually, thedailybeast.com is also just fine. I don't know why they give us such a long one.
It's
Just dailybeast.com, super easy.
You'll find it. My God. Everyone's like, no, please just say it.
All right,
Please.
well, dailybeast.com/membership/podcast.
As my personal muse once said, be best, everyone. This time I mean it.
I thought you were going to say something else. I thought you were going to say, I thought you were going to use a little expression in German.
Yes, I am. Hold on, I have to look it up. Hold on, I wrote it down.
This is from the hot mics. There's nothing better than a hot mic
nothing
situation, is there?
better
Unless it is
Then a hot
oneself.
mic. Okay, I'm going to say it slowly.
And then it's terrifying. Even when I don't have a mic on, I'm convinced I might make a hot mic moment.
This is my hot mic moment. Sag mal, wie lang wollt ihr bei dem Scheiß bleiben? That's
All right, just remind me what that means again.
how long are we gonna stick with this shit? Okay, I'm gonna say it one more time. Sag mal, wie lang wollt ihr bei dem Scheiß bleiben?
So good. I feel like I should get my passport out and give it to you.
I like that I had to make it really nasal though. Like I literally sound like a character in a movie about. Anyways.
Yeah. See you next week.